lower. Jai, that's good. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vajjana Randana. Yashodanandana Vajjana Randana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari. Yashodanandana Vajjana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Vajjana Ranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. 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 I have to get my book because I sang. So.
All right. Hare Krishna. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Nasta Prayesha Vadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama-shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, Dravida Prabhu is going to read from the 5th canto, chapter 14, the material world as the great forest of enjoyment. Thank you, Prabhu. There is an introduction first.
Yeah, the chapter summary. The direct meaning of the forest of material existence is given in this chapter. Merchants sometimes enter the forest to collect many rare things and sell them at a good profit in the city. But the forest path is always bedecked with dangers. When the pure soul wants to give up the Lord's service to enjoy the material world, Krishna certainly gives him a chance to enter the material world. As stated in the Prema Vivarta, Krishna Bahemukha Handa Bhoga Vancha Kare. This is the reason the pure spirit soul falls down to the material world. Due to his activities under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, the living entity takes different positions in different species. Sometimes he is a demigod in the heavenly planets, and sometimes a most insignificant creature in the lower planetary systems. In this regard, Srila Narottam Das Thakur says, Nana Yoni Sada Pire. The living entity passes through various species. Kardarya Bhakana Kare. He is obliged to eat and enjoy abominable things. Tar Janma Adhak Pate Jai. In this way, his whole life is spoiled. Without the protection of an all-merciful Vaishnav, the conditioned soul cannot get out of the clutches of Maya. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Manakshastan Indriyani Prakatistani Karshati. The living entity begins material life with his mind and the 5 knowledge-acquiring senses. And with these, he struggles for existence within the material world. These senses are compared to rogues and thieves within the forest. They take away a man's knowledge and place him in a network of nescience. Thus, the senses are like rogues and thieves that plunder his spiritual knowledge. Over and above this, there are family members, wife and children. There are family members, wife and children, who are exactly like ferocious animals in the forest. The business of such ferocious animals is to eat a man's flesh. The living entity allows himself to be attacked by jackals and foxes, wife and children, and thus his real spiritual life is finished. In the forest of material life, everyone is envious like mosquitoes, and rats and mice are always creating disturbances. Everyone in this material world is placed in many awkward positions and surrounded by envious people and disturbing animals. The result is that the living entity in the material world is always plundered and bitten by many living entities. Nonetheless, despite these disturbances, he does not want to give up his family life, and he continues his fruitive activities in an attempt to become happy in the future. He thus becomes more and more entangled in the results of karma, and thus he is forced to act impiously. His witnesses are the sun during the day and the moon during the night. The demigods also witness, but the conditioned soul thinks that his attempts at sense gratification are not being witnessed by anyone. Sometimes, when he is detected, he temporarily renounces everything, but due to his great attachment for the body, his renunciation is given up before he can attain perfection. In this material world, there are many envious people. There is the tax-exacting government, which is compared to an owl, and there are invisible crickets that create unbearable sounds. The conditioned soul is certainly greatly harassed by the agents of material nature, but his intelligence is lost due to undesirable association. In an attempt to gain relief from the disturbances of material existence, he falls victim to so-called yogis, sadhus, and incarnations who can display some magic, but who do not understand devotional service. Sometimes the conditioned soul is bereft of all money, and consequently he becomes unkind to his family members. In this material world, there is not a pinch of actual happiness, for which the conditioned soul is longing life after life. The government officials are like carnivorous rakshasas who exact heavy taxes for the maintenance of the government. The hard-working conditioned soul is very saddened due to these heavy taxes. The path of fruitive activities leads to difficult mountains, and sometimes the conditioned soul wants to cross these mountains, but he is never successful, and consequently he becomes more and more aggrieved and disappointed. Becoming materially and financially embarrassed, the conditioned soul unnecessarily chastises his family. In the material condition, there are 4 principal needs, out of which sleep is compared to a python. When asleep, the conditioned soul completely forgets his real existence, and in sleep he does not feel the tribulations of material life. Sometimes, being in need of money, the conditioned soul steals and cheats, although he may apparently be associated with devotees for spiritual advancement. His only business is getting out of the clutches of Maya, but due to improper guidance, he becomes more and more entangled in material dealings. This material world is simply an embarrassment and is composed of tribulations presented as happiness, distress, attachment, enmity, and envy. On the whole, it is simply full of tribulation and misery. When a person loses his intelligence due to attachment to wife and sex, his entire consciousness becomes polluted. He thus only thinks of the association of women. The time factor, which is like a serpent, takes away everyone's life, including that of Lord Brahma and the insignificant ant. Sometimes the conditioned soul tries to save himself from inexorable time and thus takes shelter of some bogus savior. Unfortunately, the bogus savior cannot even save himself. How then can he protect others? The bogus saviors do not care for bona fide knowledge received from qualified Brahmins and Vedic sources. Their only business is indulging in sex and recommending sexual freedom, even for widows. Thus they are like monkeys in the forest. Srila Shukadeva Goswami thus explains the material forest and its difficult path to Maharaj Parikshit. Text 1. Go on.
Read text 1, please.
Okay. It's all prose. Saho vacha sa esha dehatmamaninam satvadi guna vishesha vikalpata kushala kushala samabhara vinirmita vivida deha viyoga sangyoga dhanadi sangsara nubhavasya dvara bhutena shad indriya vargena tasmin durgadavad asugame dvan ya patita ishwarasya bhagavato vishnur vashavartinya mayaya jivaloko yam Yata vanik sarto taparak swadeha nishpadita karmanabhava shmasanavad ashivattamayam sangsara tavyam gato nadyapi vipala bahuprati yogehas tantapo pashamanamim hadiguru chadanada vindamanakadanapatavim avadunde. All right, we're going to read word by words. Take it
No, just the translation.
Okay, Mark. Sorry.
Just the translation.
Just kidding. When King Parikshit asked Shukadeva Goswami about the direct meaning of the material forest, Shukadeva Goswami replied as follows. My dear king, a man belonging to the mercantile community, Vanik, is always interested in earning money. Sometimes he enters the forest to acquire some cheap commodities like wood and earth and sell them in the city at good prices. Similarly, the conditioned soul, being greedy, enters this material world for some material profit. Gradually, he enters the deepest part of the forest, not really knowing how to get out. Having entered the material world, the pure soul becomes conditioned by the material atmosphere, which is created by the external energy under the control of Lord Vishnu. Thus, the living entity comes under the control of the external energy, Daivi Maya. Living independently and bewildered in the forest, he does not attain the association of devotees, who are always engaged in the service of the Lord. Once in the bodily conception, he gets different types of bodies, one after the other, under the influence of material energy, and impelled by the modes of material nature, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna. In this way, the conditioned soul goes sometimes to the heavenly planets, sometimes to the earthly planets, and sometimes to the lower planets and lower species. Thus, he suffers continuously due to different types of bodies. These sufferings and pains are sometimes mixed. Sometimes they are very severe, and sometimes they are not. These bodily conditions are acquired due to the conditioned soul's mental speculation. He uses his mind and 5 senses to acquire knowledge, and these bring about the different bodies and different conditions. Using the senses under the control of the external energy, Maya, the living entity suffers the miserable conditions of material existence. He's actually searching for relief, but he is generally baffled, although sometimes he is relieved after great difficulty. Time out for 1 second. Okay. I'm sorry. He's actually searching for relief, but he's generally baffled, although sometimes he's relieved after great difficulty. Struggling for existence in this way, he cannot get the shelter of pure devotees, who are like bumblebees engaged in loving service at the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu. Did I read the purport?
Please.
Purport. The most important information in this verse is at the very end, Hari Guru Charana Adavinda Madhukara Anupadavim. In this material world, the conditioned souls are baffled by their activities, and sometimes they are relieved after great difficulty. On the whole, the conditioned soul is never happy. He simply struggles for existence. Actually, his only business is to accept the spiritual master, the Guru, and through him he must accept the lotus feet of the Lord. This is explained by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Guru Krishna Prasadai Pai Bhakti Lata Bij. People struggling for existence in the forests or cities of the material world are not actually enjoying life. They are simply suffering different pains and pleasures, generally pains that are always inauspicious. They try to gain release from these pains, but they cannot due to ignorance. For them it is stated in the Vedas, Tad Vijnanatam Sugurum Evabhigachet. When the living entity is lost in the forest of the material world, in the struggle for existence, his first business is to find a bona fide guru who is always engaged at the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. After all, if he is at all eager to be relieved of the struggle for existence, he must find a bona fide guru and take instructions at his lotus feet. In this way, he can get out of the struggle. Since the material world is compared herein to a forest, it may be argued that in Kali Yuga, modern civilization is mainly situated in the cities. A great city, however, is like a great forest. Actually, city life is more dangerous than life in the forest. If one enters an unknown city without friend or shelter, living in that city is more difficult than living in a forest. There are many big cities all over the surface of the globe, and wherever one looks, he sees the struggle for existence going on 24 hours a day. People rush about in cars going 70 and 80 miles an hour, constantly coming and going. And this sets the scene of the great struggle for existence. One has to rise early in the morning and travel in that car at breakneck speed. There is always the danger of an accident, and one has to take great care. In his automobile, the living entity is full of anxieties, and his struggle is not at all auspicious. Apart from human beings, other species like cats and dogs are also struggling very hard and day and night for existence. Thus, the struggle for existence continues, and the conditioned soul changes from one position to another. For a while, he is a child, but he has to become a boy. From a boy, he has to change into a youth, and from youth to manhood and old age. Finally, when the body is no longer workable, he has to accept a new body in a different species. Giving up the body is called death, and accepting another body is called birth. The human form is an opportunity to take shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, and through him, the Supreme Lord. This Krishna consciousness movement has been started to give an opportunity to all the members of human society who are misled by foolish leaders. No one can get out of this struggle for existence, which is full of miseries, without accepting a pure devotee of the Lord. The material attempt changes from one position to another, and no one actually gains relief from the struggle for existence. The only resort is the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master, and through him, the lotus feet of the Lord.
Thank you, Prabhu, very much. Hare Krishna. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkest of ignorance, and my spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble and respectful obeisance unto him. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So this is a vivid description of the material world and the conditioned soul who are struggling within it. So Krishna says that in Bhagavad Gita, no? Mamaibamso jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manasastranendriyani prakristani karshati. The living entities in this material world are part of me, Krishna says. They belong to me. But due to the conditioning of the mind and the senses, they are struggling very hard in this material existence. And this struggling means to survive. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to suffer, to get old or sick. So the struggle is to live. But for how long? That's the whole thing. No? Life is temporary. Dukkhalayam ashashvatam. Krishna confirmed this material world is a temporary place full of miseries. So that's the confirmation of the one who created this world. He's the manufacturer. He knows better his product than anybody else. Others may say, oh, you come, enjoy, Yeah. Here in America, it's very common. People say to one another, enjoy, enjoy. Enjoy and suffer. With the same intensity you enjoy, you have to suffer later on. That's the law of karma, So due to ignorance only, people are struggling and struggling for existence without a spiritual goal in their life. Their lives are miserable. Despite the situation in big cities, they have to go so many miles away from their home to work. The traffic, get angry at others, drivers, because they don't drive correctly. Sometimes there is an accident. So many problems. As soon as they wake up, put on the news, drink coffee, smoke a cigarette. That's a miserable life. And what does people eating? They eat any horrible thing. Yeah. There was one man who did the documentary about for 1 month he will eat only McDonald's food. And he did a medical check before and after. And after, it was so many health problems, so many diseases he got just by eating McDonald's for 1 month. To prove, they tried to stop him actually. They tried to bribe him or stop him or somewhat, but it didn't work. He did it, and it's crazy, to say. People they don't care. Whatever pleases the tongue doesn't matter. It tastes good, it's okay, it's all right, Doesn't matter. So, anyway, so this material forest of enjoyment, one may say, okay, cities are not forests, but it's an asphalt jungle. Prabhupada said he was in New York, and sometimes somebody collapse in the middle of the street, nobody will help. They will pass over the person. They will not stop. Heartless, And Prabhupada said also that when he came to America, he thought everybody, at least has the basic needs. Most people are rich, But he saw, in the Bowery, so many drunkards sleeping on the street, struggling, like that. I say, wow, it's not like that everywhere. Here also, even in San Diego, we see homeless people sleeping on the street. I went this morning for a walk on the beach, and was a guy covered with, trying to sleep in the middle of the day. It's miserable. And why we are suffering in this condition? Because we wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna. That's all. Sometimes the soul may be in heavenly planet as a demigod, enjoying like anything. And when the karma is finished, they have to come back to the material middle planet, earthly planet. And again, the karma, this is the place for karma, for activities. Hell is for suffering the bad karma, and heaven is for enjoying the good karma. Like children playing in, what do you call that? Ferris wheel. Sometimes up, sometimes in the middle, sometimes down, and like that, So the soul is doing that. Sometimes up and down in the middle, and again down and back again. And all is this because the desire of the soul to be the enjoyer of this material energy. And because we are trying to be something we are not, then we are confused. We are perplexed. If you want to cross a river, you have to go with the current. The current takes you, then you swim to the other side, But if you go counter current, it's not going to happen. It's just an impossible thing. So that's the situation in the material world. Everybody's struggling and struggling to be happy. But the truth is, no matter how much money, properties, material pleasure you may have, it's not going to make you happy. I remember many years ago, the director or president of the Playboy magazine, he killed himself. Yes, many years ago. And he had all the money of the world, all beautiful women, everything. He was not happy. So that proves that no matter how much material acquisition you may get, how many beautiful women you may get, you will not be happy in this material world. That's a simple truth. So what can really make us happy? To acknowledge who we are and act accordingly. If we accept who we are and act according to what we are, then we are happy and peaceful. A simple thing. If we accept something which is not real to be real, then we are in ignorance, we are suffering. So we are accepting this material body as our real self, and that is due only to ignorance. So to dispel this ignorance, we are reading Srimad Bhagavatam, revealed by Srila Vyasadeva, Shukadev Goswami, the Guru Parampara. We're receiving it through Srila Prabhupada and explaining according to his own experience. Prabhupada speaking from his own experience. He say, I was a Calcutta boy. I know, all the tricks and all the things, And in New York also, he lived through so many experiences there, He said, I was struggling to survive. I had to go out, sell my books every day just to buy some vegetables and pay the room rent. But I have full faith in Krishna that he will help me not just survive, but to preach the Krishna conscious movement all over the world. When Srila Prabhupada registered the society in New York in July 1966, some of his friends and well-wishers, they advised him, better call it International Society for God Consciousness. It's easier for people to understand, to accept. He said, no, people don't know who's God. I'm going to present to them who's God. And Krishna is God. So we are going to call it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And they said, but why international? We only have one temple here in New York. Why call it international, And he said, you don't know. That's the prophecy of Lord Chaitanya. He said every town and village, it's going to happen. With me or without me. Krishna already decided that. We just have to be an instrument, Prabhupada said. Prabhupada was traveling all over the world. Sometimes he gets sick. He has to rest for a few months, in one place. But he said, I want to die in the battlefield like a soldier for Krishna. That is my wish. That's the glory, of a pure devotee. He wants to be an instrument in Krishna's hand. And that's what makes devotional service such a great challenge. Because the whole thing is about to change our frame of mind and our desires. That's all. That's all we have to do, actually. Once we change our frame of mind, taking it from sense gratification to self-realization. The purpose of human life is not sense gratification, it's self-realization. Sense gratification is needed only to maintain the body. You need to sleep, you need to eat, take care of your health, a place to live. That's fine. Everybody has to do that. But the basic things are necessary, and which are, eating, sleeping, mating, defending. We can't live without eating or sleeping, but we can live without sex life. That's possible. Many people, not so many, few, can do it, I mean to say, if you can't do it, then get married. But don't fool around, trying to pick up girls and that's not nonsense. When Prabhupada was in Venezuela, one man asked him in the class, Prabhupada gave a class, and said, Master, I hear that the best thing for a spiritual life is to get married. Is it true? Prabhupada said, no. The best thing for a spiritual life is to remain brahmachari. But since you can't, you become a bachelor daddy. Then you are forced to get married. Or not, or you fly away. That happens, no? Young, teenager, they have sex, the girl gets pregnant, and the boy just disappears, And the poor girl has to, either take shelter of abortion or government help or family help. It's a big problem. It's a big social problem. And why is all that? Because they don't want to control the senses, to accept responsibility. No? So, although here it is said very strongly that the wife and the children are like jackals and ferocious animals, because the man is working so hard just to maintain them, but there is affection. That's why they do it. There's attachment, affection. But when the family is Krishna conscious, they have Krishna in the center of their lives, then they are not ferocious animals. They are helpers. They are devotees. So once Vishal, our god brother, went to see Prabhupada in Vrindavan with his wife. His wife was next to him. They went to offer obeisance to Prabhupada, and in front of her, he asked Prabhupada, is it true that women are less intelligent? I hear devotees saying that, And Prabhupada said, you are chanting Hare Krishna, she is chanting Hare Krishna. Where is the point of less intelligence? If she's chanting Hare Krishna, she is as intelligent as you are. And then he asked Prabhupada, should the wife always obey the husband and serve him? And Prabhupada said, and you have to be so arrogant? I mean, devotees have the tendency to twist things. They read something, they don't see it in the proper context. They try to misapply it in some way. It happens all the time. So we have to be balanced. The spiritual life means to know how to balance things, to understand them in the proper context, and apply them properly with love and compassion and tolerance, and appreciation of everyone's effort to serve Krishna. It's a very important thing to understand the philosophy correctly and explain it and apply it correctly. Then we can be a good instrument in Krishna's hand. Prabhupada himself had to apologize to one lady who wrote him a letter complaining about two devotees she met on the street, and they selling books, and they mistreated her because she didn't want to buy the book or something. And they were angry at her and yelling at her. Prabhupada had to apologize. He said, I apologize for them. They are new devotees. I'm very sorry. They're trying, to do service to spiritual mission, which is trust, is praiseworthy. But they are new, they don't know, please forgive them. Like that. Prabhupada has to apologize for them. Once to some nice gentleman who come to the temple and help the temple, give donation, and once they have a meeting with Prabhupada and they ask him, Prabhupada, the movement and the philosophy are very nice, your books are wonderful and full of transcendental knowledge, but we don't understand one thing. Why devotee destroy everything they touch? So the doors, the cars, is it true or not? Yeah, generally speaking. Yeah, I mean, and Prabhupada said, he agreed. He said, yes, that's the price we have to pay for them not having illicit sex. That's the price we have to pay for them being celibate, not having illicit sex. I mean, all the passion they've paid against things, That's why Prabhupada encouraged devotee dance in the kirtan, all the passion, I remember when I started visiting the temple, on the Sunday feast, the devotee invited me to eat prasad with them, They usually did it before the feast, so they will be free to preach and don't worry about eating. And I was surprised to see the amount of food they eat, I was practicing yoga and I wasn't eating one fruit at the time, not mixing many things together, and sometimes do fast for 2-3 days, And I saw the devotee eating mountains of halva and puris, and I said, what is the kind of yogis are this, But then right after the prasad, they will go up to the temple room and start a kirtan, everybody jumping like crazy, wow, this is a good way to to take care of that energy, to release that energy, in a spiritual way, of course. And then I became like them too. I started also eating mountains of, but I did something. I will fast like for 2-3 days, then go to the temple to have a big feast with the devotees. That was allowed. Hare Krishna. Anyway, so Krishna consciousness is a blissful process, give us real knowledge, and devotees association, because in this world it's difficult to find people who are really interested in practicing spiritual life. Sometimes people have some interest and they fall in the hand of some cheater, some bogus so-called guru or avatar of God because he can make some magic and things like that. People are allured by this kind of things. And they accept, this is an avatar. What is his name in the scripture? Nowhere. So how can you accept, But people are sentimental and ignorant. And because they want things cheap, then they got cheated. Like that. Once a reporter asked Prabhupada, what do you think about bad gurus? And Prabhupada said, if they are bad, they are not gurus. You can't be bad and guru at the same time. It's not possible. So they are not gurus. They're just cheaters, posing as gurus. So it is difficult, nowadays in this fallen age to find the proper guidance, bona fide guidance. But Prabhupada, by creating this International Society for Krishna Consciousness, giving the opportunity to everyone to come and associate with devotees. Prabhupada said, to give opportunity to everyone to come, hear about Krishna, accept the prasad offered to Krishna, Give some gift to the devotees, receive some prasadam gift in return, books, ask questions, reveal your mind, seek help. Then it's wonderful. It's loving exchanges, So to get out of this forest of material enjoyment is not an easy thing. It's like, have you ever get lost in a big city? Me too. I was only a child, and I get lost in a big city in Caracas, you know, and twice actually, not only once, twice. And the police took me to their station, and they made some announcement, you know, like this, and finally they got me. But I mean to say, it's very, very confusing when you are get lost, you don't know where you're going, or how to find your way out of, you know, being lost, you know. So this material world also are lost because we are forgetting who we are. Nice example of that is suppose a man have a car accident, and in that car accident he lost all his documents, and he's on the hospital. He doesn't have any ID on him. He lost his memory. He doesn't know who he is or what is his name or where he lives. Nothing. He doesn't remember anything. And when he's released, he's going out in the street homeless, you know, begging for food or sleeping on the street. And one day, a friend of his father find him. Oh, I know you. What are you doing in the street, dirty and like that, homeless? Well, I forgot who I am. I had an accident. Oh, I know your father. Come. I will take. Your father's a rich man. He can take nice care of you. But I can't take you like this, all dirty and smelly. Come to my home, get a bath, eat nicely, and shave up. I will take you to your father to present you to him. So in the same way, the spiritual master, you know, he tells us, why you're suffering in this world? I know your father, Krishna. He's very kind and merciful. He's very rich. You don't have to suffer in this world. Come, I will take you to him. But I can't take you like that, all dirty. And first follow these 4 rules, you know, and chant Hare Krishna. When you are clean enough, then I will present you personally to Krishna. You have to pass the test, the exam. And the final exam is called death. Whatever we have learned in life will be tested at the time of death. If we really learned actually this great science of Krishna consciousness. All right, thank you very much. Any comments or questions? Very good. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Question, any question in the...
Yes, Maharaj, I'm here.
All right, Vijay, I forgot you, sorry.
No problem, Maharaj. You are most welcome, my humble obeisances. Maharaj, I just left a Srimad Bhagavatam discussion, and I need your help, if I may ask, for it related to the following. We were discussing about the universal form showed by Lord Krishna to Arjuna.
Yes.
And Arjuna asks Lord Krishna for Lord Krishna to resume his 2-armed form because Arjuna was feeling discomfortable and fearful.
Yes.
Because of the aspect of the universal form, very frightening.
Yeah.
So, Maharaj, based on this, my question is, when I am in the presence, Arjuna was in the presence of Lord Krishna, but in my case, when I am in the presence of a genuine representative of Lord Krishna, like a teacher of Srimad Bhagavatam, a speaker on Srimad Bhagavatam, what is it that this genuine representative should not do? What is it that this genuine representative of Lord Krishna should do in order to make me feel comfortable and not fearful?
All right. You got the question?
Yes.
that then Krishna showed Arjuna the universal form, and Arjuna was fearful, and he asked Krishna to take again his two-armed form. Actually, Arjuna didn't ask to see the universal form for himself. He had full faith that Krishna is the Supreme Lord. He asked for others' benefit, that in the future when people read Bhagavad Gita, they will know that Krishna didn't say he's the Supreme God just theoretically. He proves it by showing his universal form, Once a devotee is challenging a so-called guru avatar, an avatar, he say, I'm an avatar of God. They challenge him. Okay, if you are an avatar of God, then show me your universal form. Because Prabhupada told them like that, You challenge those rascals who say they are God. Okay, if we are God, show me, like Arjuna was showed the universal form, you also show us that. And the very clever guru said, when you will be qualified as Arjuna, then I will show it to you. Very clever. And Prabhupada told them, you should have told him, okay, have you shown to any of your disciples? Even at least one of them must be qualified, otherwise what kind of guru you are? Have they seen your universal form? They are very tricky. They want just to play with words and, bewilder people, Innocent people, they fall for the trap that they're avatars, A true guru never say he's God. He's always say, I'm servant of God. Prabhupada said, that's even too high. I'm trying to be a servant of God. Trying to. Servant of the servant of the servant. That's the philosophy of Krishna consciousness. So, your question is how to find a bona fide representative that makes you feel comfortable and not fearful. That's the question.
Yes, that is my question, Maharaj, if I may ask.
Why we should fear any Vaishnava? I mean, generally speaking, Vaishnava, they don't frighten anybody. They are trying to be compassionate and caring and loving. So there is no reason to be afraid of approaching, Vaishnavas, gurus. Generally speaking, they must be kind and compassionate. So,
Maharaj, if I may, Lord Krishna was playing the role of the Guru of Arjun. And he made Arjun fearful.
Yeah, he made Arjun fearful because the universal form is very, very gigantic and very wonderful, and it's frightful because he will see all the, everything in creation, including demigods and demons, everything in creation are included in the universal form. So that's why it is frightening. Arjuna was more attracted to the human form like of Krishna. He was not attracted to the universal form. He didn't want to see it for his own good or to believe more in Krishna. He already a great believer. But to help others to believe in Krishna as the Supreme Lord, that's why he has to see that form, not for himself. So naturally, as a devotee, he likes to see the beautiful form of Krishna, human-like form, not to see this universal form with gigantic heads and, demons' bodies and devatas and so many things in the universe. It's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. Not only he saw it, also demigods and heavenly planet, they saw it too. And great sages, Sanjaya saw it and described it to Dhritarashtra. By the mercy of his Guru Vyasadeva, he could see it. Yes. Please do. Yes.
So, sometimes, like I heard this pastime, you're probably familiar with it, that Prabhupada said about, I think American disciples especially, your problem is you're not afraid of Maya enough.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So sometimes, as we see here, that the function of the guru or the function of the shastra is to make us scared. We should be scared of the forest of material environment. We should be, I wouldn't say scared so much, but sobered up and wanting to get out of it because it's very frightening. I mean, this is some things in this description I just read, you know, the whole thing is scary. And there's many parts of Bhagavatam like that. And Krishna says, Janma Mrityu Vyura Jari. So the gurus and the Vaishnavas in general, their function is not to just make you feel good, but to impel you toward getting serious about getting out of the material energy. And so therefore sometimes they describe it as it really is. And therefore, it can be sobering, to say the least.
Yeah, sobering is important, to be sober, you know. I met once a devotee who told me that he wasn't much interested in becoming devotee, but he liked the philosophy and the devotees. But after reading the description of the hellish planet, he said, no, I better become a devotee. I don't want to go there. It's horrible. I better become a devotee. I want to follow the 4 rules. I don't want... Yes. Well, that's good. That's good, you know, to be afraid of Maya is a good thing. It's not bad, you know.
That reminded me of that. I will. I was part of the marathon that were, you know, producing the CC and the 17 books back in '75. So one of my assignments.
How many months took to print the book? Chaitanya
the whole thing was done in 2 months.
In 2 months?
Yeah,
amazing.
Which is what Prabhupada said. It was amazing. I mean, it was impossible.
A miracle, yeah.
But so one of my assignments was because I didn't pick and choose what I got to edit. They assigned me those chapters, the hellish chapters, you know. So we would work late at night. I mean, it was like a big marathon, you know, 24 hours. So I'm there in my room and I'm working on this chapter. You know, if you had illicit sex, you have to embrace the molten form of the opposite sex for thousands of years. And drink, you know, and if you drink, then you have to, and it was very sobering, you know, and I was realizing, as you said here, this was a better example, the best example. This is meant to impel us to want to get serious so that we don't have to suffer those. And that, you know, that's not the ultimate motivation, but that's a good way.
But that's a good motivation, you know, at least I don't want to suffer in hell, you know, let me get out of here. So once Prabhupada was in a morning walk with the disciples, and one of them asked Prabhupada, why Maya is holding us and then doesn't let us go, you know. She's holding us very tightly. We can, no matter what we do, you know. Yeah, Maya is so strong. And Prabhupada went to a tree and hugged the tree, said, Maya, leave me alone. Let me go, let me go. So we are attached to Maya when blaming Maya. Maya's testing us, you know, to see if we want Krishna or we want to continue to be false enjoyers in the material world. So she's testing us. She's not bad. Maya is a pure devotee, but she has the thankless task to put to test those who are in this material world, you know, to see if what they really want, you know. Oh. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna, Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you very much. And Ravida Prabhu, thank you for your contribution. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.